Hi everyone, welcome to OrcaTank.
Indeed. So what is OrcaTank?
Yes, so OrcaTank is a podcast that is initiated by us from RC4 Entrepreneurship Club, where we invite startup founders to share their stories on how they had some startup ideas when they were students, to hopefully inspire you to embark on your own entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah, so here at RC4, we focus on systems thinking and taking a holistic view towards problem solving. So now we are taking systems thinking to the next step by focusing more on entrepreneurship.
Yes, and so this is our very first episode of OrcaTank. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast. Today we are very honored to have Danish join us for our very first episode. So Danish is the founder of DANAMIC and DNMC Creative. So it's a Singapore-based collective that blends storytelling and also agency services. And Danish is also an associate lecturer at Ngee Polytechnic as well, and raises up a new generation of startup founders. So Danish, welcome to the podcast. We're very happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I think we can start with our first question. So Danish, you actually started your first business idea at the age of 13. So can you take us back to that time and how did it feel like? What sparked that kind of entrepreneurship mentality?
So, 12, 13, I was kind of like playing around with a program called Microsoft Front Page. It doesn't even exist anymore. It was the precursor to things like Adobe Dreamweaver, basically to build web pages. And I used to do it because I used to like run a blog on my own when I was small, really small, and I wanted to make things look nice, right? It came to a point where when I was building that, I had friends who saw it, and finally one friend had a father who was running like some sort of printer distribution business, and he just said that my dad was asking if you could build the website for him, and how much was it? So the question about how much was it was such a strange question to me because I didn't realize I could get money out of this as a kid. And I charged him I think $20 for the entire thing, which of course, knowing now, was kind of like I severely undercharged myself.
Right.
But that one first step where I actually built the website, passed it over to my friend's dad, and then him just going around telling his peers that, I have this guy, my son's friend, does these things, and he just slowly started to build a clientele from there. So that's when I realized, I could turn what was sort of like a hobby that I was kind of doing after school, and not really studying, into something that could actually get me a bit of pocket change. Like I used to buy Pokemon cards with them, I think, with the money I got, because what else could I do back then? I think I still have like my Pikachu, so I don't even know what edition it is. But that is basically what started the journey. So from there, after I built the first few websites, I realized when I handed it over, which was just like a skeleton, so it was like a basic design, some words and some placeholder for photos, I realized they kind of fill it with not so decent language or images, in the sense whereby I realized they could have written it better. Some of the websites were in Singlish at the time, and I was like, what can I do about it? So I started telling people, other than designing the website, do you want me to write like what you do as a business? And I'll try. So I cheated a bit, of course. I mean, being that young, I didn't really have a good grasp, right? So I would talk to my dad, say, hey, how would I describe this? And he would work with me. And then I would charge slightly extra. And again, I charged like $5 extra, which is very low at that point in time. But that's how it started. So I realized that other than just building websites, I could actually create content, very early content at that point of time. Like social media wasn't a thing yet, right? But that kind of started the journey of content creation and services that would revolve around it. So I came to a point where I think all the way to 2012, because I was kind of on-off whenever I had to do studies, when I had to do school, I realized that, okay, how about I try this out? So I always reserved dynamic.org, right? And the funny part was that Dynamic came out because that was my Xbox gamer tag a long time ago. Because obviously it was the word dynamic changed with my name, right? That's how it started. And I changed that dynamic.org, which was just like a little site that had like little portfolio stuff for me, into what was kind of like a blog editorial. So I started like just writing about movies I was interested in, music I liked a lot, as a way to demonstrate how I would write content and how the website itself would navigate. And that started getting me more leads because there were people who would be like, can I invite you to an event so that you can write about my event? So that sort of catapulted me a little bit into media, into I guess, very early day influencing when it wasn't really social media, but more of people reading, right? People would read news, whatever, to Google, and that started the trend. But then slowly after a while, you realize nobody reads words. It's come to the point where even our data shows us that when we write articles, if there's more than 3 paragraphs without a photo or some sort of social media embed, people just stop reading completely. So social media came about, right? Or photos. I started trying to take photos. So that's when I had like a Canon, oh my god, I think it's really old. It's like 60D, really old Canon camera. And I'll take photos at events. I'll put them online as well. And then that's where photography started, right? When YouTube came about, then video started, Facebook, Instagram, it became history. So from there, I started DANAMIC as not just me. I tried to find teams to help me out because I couldn't do one-man show all the way, especially because I was still studying. So whether it was me in Polytechnic or when I was here in NUS as well, I needed people to help me out, right? Because if not, I'd be very distracted with other things or be doing my studies or exams. And that's basically how DANAMIC started. So from editorial, every year we would officially launch a division. So editorial, then photography, video production will be the next year, and then finally we had like social media, and it kind of wrapped everything together. So once we reached that stage, we realized we're not just some random editorial, actually you're an agency, basically a full-fledged one. You're doing all these services together, and that's how DANAMIC is today, and that's what we got. So really, it's a string of coincidences, a string of, oh, I didn't know I could do this as a way to gain some money somewhere, and also kind of becoming very passionate about it, because there were instances where like we would write things for people, whether it was products, whether it was events, even Overwatch. Like we managed to score like an exclusive interview with like the lead developer back then for Overwatch when he was talking about balances because they were introducing like competitive play, right, esports gaming. And we also dropped that very valuable piece of news that they were going to completely change how Reinhardt would work. So that blew and went viral, right? And then that was basically like, it was a feel good. And that's what kept us going ever since after that. Yeah.
It's so interesting how like it started off as a small little passion where you didn't even know if it would work, but you just try it out, and then slowly as you continue doing, like you gain all the experience, and then after that you try to form a team when you're in Polytechnic or university. Yeah, so very cool. Yes.
So you also ran DANAMIC when you were in university, right?
Yes.
So how was the journey like? How do you go about juggling both a business and studies?
Terribly. So I'm not the best student. I think if anyone looks at my academic transcript, they will kind of see that, and they will probably see the seasons where I was completely dropping the ball in certain places. But I was very conscious that was a decision I made. So it's not of like, we're not really beating myself up for like, oh, I got a C in this module, that's not really great. When everyone's chasing A's and A pluses, like I've seen people fight for it's an A minus, only an A. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm with a C, go like I just passed, I'm good enough. But I think it was kind of acknowledging that you needed to prioritize what you wanted to prioritize, and also dealing with the benefits, but also the consequences that came with it. Right, so there were times when I would need to like work with the school, asking for like overloading or underloading just to help me out in certain places. At the same time, also on the work side, preempting like the people who I had, my very early team, they're like, hey, I will kind of need to study for midterms, I need to study for finals. It's going to be hard for me to kind of be contactable, so just bear with me, and then seeking that kind of understanding. So it also became very important to figure out how I could rely on my colleagues, and also being able to figure out how to create SOPs, basically standard operating procedures, because if I'm not around as the head, right, like they can't just be like, okay, then just, we'll just sit there and wait for you to come back. That doesn't make sense, right? So creating all those SOPs actually helped out, and also giving ownership to the people I had, also putting those things together, because it was really hard if I were to try and do it myself, to juggle both like studying in the US and also doing my work as well. Because like a lot of my clients also want physical meetings, so I would literally be traveling from like RC4 to like the CBD area, and then some people were in Changi Business Park, so good luck to me there. It was like NH to Changi Business Park, and then all the way back for like a 9 p.m. class I think I had. So that was the life I lived, but I knew I chose it, and I was happy I was trying. It was a challenge. And then I think when I had nothing on a Saturday or Sunday, I would just basically sleep for like 12 hours. But basically that was how life was like. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, we're curious, like, how did RC4 play a role in like your entrepreneurship journey?
So a lot of people, I won't say a lot, but quite a few people who have been working with me actually came from RC4 in some sense. Some of the people who I stayed with, so shout out to like Kevin, Jeremy, they were like roommates with me because I took like the suite, right? And that's how I got to know more about them. They were very helpful with me to my journey in school. But then later on, when we started, or rather I started the business, and they were looking for part-time jobs, they helped out. They did quite a bit of work for me, and it was pretty cool because it's like watching friends evolve into like colleagues as well, and being able to maintain those boundaries was very important. Like, we just needed to make sure when we're in school, we're not going to talk about work. Right? Else it'll be very annoying. And then when we're outside, then we'll talk about work. That was one part. So that would be the community aspect. If not, it's really just the other friends I had, some of the professors. Prof. Nav, of course, deserves a shout out. Who's off screen somewhere. Really, he believed in a lot of the stuff I did. He actually went out of his way, where sometimes I think I had 2 a.m. night chats with him. I think I'll walk out. Where he would do his night walk, I would join him, and then I would maybe just kind of like trauma dump a little bit, but he would kind of give me like oh, maybe you should try this or work with this. And it was really helpful, really insightful, and it was nice that I had someone to share some of that load with. I mean, of course, I had my parents as well, I'm very thankful for that. But it's very different when you can talk to someone who, because Prof. Nam is student life, right? So he also knows like how student life is here and then what I could do to interface or interlace any of those things, right? If not really, again, all the other friends I had, my friends from Leo, and of course Ursa when I was borrowed there for a short while.
In fact, actually, we are all from.
Oh, nice! Yeah. So like, it was a great house. Whenever I felt tired, someone would actually notice it. And he'd be like, I bought you ice cream. Like, oh, okay. And those small things really add up. After all, it helped pull me through. So I was really great for that. Yeah.
So you mentioned about like, speaking to Prof. Nav about your challenges, having friends to rely on. So perhaps maybe could you like share one of the early failures you had, one of the challenges you faced?
So I guess one of the early failures we'll talk about would be like with clients. So it took me about 19 to 20 tries, basically, and I kept getting rejected. Whether this was through calling, emails, cold emails at that, because I basically had no network at that point in time, right? And whatever network I did have was either like referrals from like maybe what my parents had or what friends had, and they wouldn't really pan out because of course it's like, who's this kid who barely has any portfolio and is trying to get this kind of work done, right? That was the hard part. It became very demoralizing. It really was a point where by the 18th, 19th try, I was like, should I keep doing this? I might as well just go back to the standard, graduate my degree, go and join some, I don't even know what it's called, Manga or Fang, I can't remember anymore. Any of the tech companies, this was computer science, right? But finally, one client said, you know what, I'll give it a try, let's just do it. And that was what made everything worth it. If not, the other part of the failure would be, I guess, the team. So it took me 3 different teams before I realized I had a good group of people who had a few similarities. So I guess the first team, in that sense, failed because we all were in different parts of life, too far away. We had some people who were kind of like doing national service, and they were also getting willing to sign on, so they had a lot of things to do. Then some others were already in university, while some of us were still in poly. So everyone was very different in lifestyle, so it was very hard to coordinate, and that didn't work, right? Because it didn't feel like there was any sort of collaborative work, right? The second team that I found put together, we had very differing missions and goals. So all of our goals were very grand, but because I was heading one direction, they were heading a completely different direction, and then someone else had another idea altogether, then it was very hard. Because if no one could agree on a common direction, we're all just doing our own things, and again, you're not going to go anywhere, right? Like a boat being tugged in all 4 directions basically doesn't move, right? It stays in the same spot. Only in the third team did I finally have a group of people who were kind of all balanced in some sense of like when we could meet up, when we could get work done in like an allocated time. And of course, we all believed in the same mission and vision, and that was very important. So at least we were actually going together in one trip. So I think those two failures, in some sense, the client part and of course the team part, were 2 very defining moments, because it came to a point whereby it changed how we pitched and it changed how we worked as a team, and that fundamentally formed the company culture. Yeah, and that culture is what kind of like it pervades all the way to today, right? When we try to hire people, we try to see whether they can match our culture. we do it like a 3-step process. People send in CVs as the first round. The second round is just like a virtual interview. The third round is where we actually invite them in because we're literally vibe checking. We just want to see like how they're talking to us, how they're interacting, how people interacting with them, and then we figure out whether or not they'll fit with the team. Because that was all through those failures that we understood these were very important to us. Yeah, because especially in creative, it's a lot more free form. So you have to be very careful about who you are trusting or relying on when it comes to creative ideas or when it comes to strategy, because it can go anywhere, right? But you need to know someone who believes in what they're doing and also can execute it in the first place. Yeah.
So, yeah, we can tell that teamwork is such an important thing in especially for startups. Was there any moment or in time where you feel like you're burnt out or like being stretched to thin net? How do you deal with these these situations?
So I have said this a few times when I had to do talks or sit on a panel. In NUS, especially when I was studying for the 4 years, I actually scheduled crash out sessions. Like 2 hours of, okay, I'm going to cry for these 2 hours and then I'll just get back to it. Like, and then people would be like, ah, ha, 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 and I look at them, like, I'm not really joking, really. Like, I can show you my calendar. I actually had that block out there. And then people go, why would you do that? Because part of the burnout is also the emotions. I've come to realize that sometimes you just need to feel, right? The feeling can come from you failed to deliver on time, you had a fussy client who still just doesn't like what you're doing no matter what you've been given, or you just feel like you could have done something better. And even though everyone's okay, client's happy about it, you got the job done, you got the money in, you just feel like, I could have done better, this is subpar for me, right? It's very imposter syndrome, right? And then those emotions, when they pull together, become very negative. So literally just having some time to just let it out, whether, I did quite a few things. One was I would write on a piece of paper and burn it. I should not say that, you probably shouldn't start flying on C4, but burn it through my bin. I'm sorry, Prof. Now. Or I would like basically I would just kind of sit down, listen to like music that would motivate me or demotivate me. You know, like you would have those punk out music and I'll just play it, probably cry a little bit. But once the emotions are gone, I got that clarity. Then it was just easier to plan the next week, put things together, and then realize that okay, now that I'm done with these things, I don't feel like such an energy vampire anymore, and I can start hanging out a bit of the social life back again. So house Leo and all that and whatnot. And be able to move on. But it was very important that I process those emotions, I think. That was a very big part. If not, I think I would just put my head to no end. Because even the failures didn't come from work, they would come from school, right? Again, like me getting like a C grade wasn't great. Or like I was like, oh, I'm going to definitely get an A and then get a B plus. I'm like, okay. I was like, I even did that optional report or whatever. It's fine. Bell curve is something. But that little schedule of being able to just process the emotions, get my stuff done, process whatever thoughts I had, even if they were negative thoughts, was important to make sure I could still be a normal functioning human being at the end of the day. Yeah.
So I can see a lot of resilience. It's quite an important thing to survive in, like, especially when we're dealing with academics and at the same time you have a startup. And also like facing the emotions, don't hide it.
I think processing them is very important.
Yeah.
Like, to really confront it.
Yeah.
To really like give yourself that space to really process, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So especially now when like the hustle culture is so strong, especially in university, right? Everyone's just constantly trying to go for the next thing. Like, do you have any advice, especially for students who want to pursuing entrepreneurship on the side? Do you have any like advice or any words for them?
I guess, I mean, even when I was studying, there were people around me going like, let's do fire, like try and get it done, like retire earlier. I was like, in this economy, okay, sure. And then the economy now is worse, okay, but I would really think just setting aside what you want to do, because honestly, it is very rare for your passion and the thing you're working on to be the same. I've tried so hard to try and merge those two things, but they never really happen. Either because you find out that realistically, the passion doesn't pay bills in one sense, or the work you want to do that will pay very well will definitely not be something that you would maybe enjoy doing for a very long time. So understanding that difference, I think, is important, because especially when you want to do something on the side, like I think every time I watch TikTok, there's at least 2 videos that will be like, here's something you can do on the side so you can earn money. It's while you're studying or while you're doing something else, the side hustle becomes so important. I'm like, okay, I get it. But you are only human, you only have 24 hours. Knowing how to partition that time, and like I think at the very start when I said, I also was very conscious of the not just the benefits but also the consequences I would have to endure for missing certain things, right? So if we talk about work, there were projects I had to let go because they're doing filming during midterms. Yeah, I can't do that. I can't sacrifice my midterms for that. Or like in school, it would be like there are some modules where the workload was really hard. So it was the decision of should I just W this and do it again next semester, but then I have to overload because I cannot take the load now with what I'm doing. Or even personal. There were times where even Leo, there were people who had like, we were going out for Alamins for birthday parties, like just to celebrate someone's birthday, but I would have to decline it because I was rushing work or rushing homework that I didn't do for a module, right? So those are all sacrifices I had to make. Those are opportunities where, whether it's social opportunities, whether it's work or academic opportunities, being okay to make those decisions and not beating yourself up for it, whether you choose to take or not take something, is also very important. So if someone can understand that fact fundamentally, I think then it's okay that they can try to pursue something on the side. Because even when I mentor, even at the polytechnic level, there are my mentees, some of the students, they feel like they're not doing enough, but they're really working so hard. Like they're really trying to do 5 modules and at the same time still try to build an entrepreneurship, and then they feel like they're failing because they don't see anything panning out for them. But like it's the whole jack of all trades, master of none kind of situation, right? And one thing that I love to point out to people is that that's only half the phrase. The other part of the phrase that people constantly forget, right, is that jack of all trades, master of none, but better than a master of one, right? Because if the industry you're in or the work skill that you have dies out, like what AI has done to a lot of industries now, you're dead. But if you're a jack of all trades, right, maybe you may not be the best at any one particular thing, but you are definitely adaptable. And in this day and age, I think you will notice that even a lot of job descriptions are trying to kind of skimp away with people with multiple skills, right? It used to be like, you only need to be a producer. Oh, you need to be creative. But you read the job description, it looks like 5 different roles in one. And you're like, for this salary, okay. But that is what's happening, right? If I don't look at creative, I look at tech, same thing as well. They look at developers who not only just code, but they're like, do a bit of wireframing. So that's UI UX. Or are able to talk a little bit with clients or figure out architecting, which is supposed to be a sales business thing, but they want the developer to understand, right? So if you know and have a bit of those skills here and there, even if they're not polished, the fact you have awareness and can do a bit about it will make you so much more versatile, so much more valuable in the long run. And I think, just like how I experienced it personally, being able to do so many things also made me figure out what I love to do, what I didn't love to do, and what I would do if I needed to. And having that understanding makes a lot of decisions clearer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a lot of great advice for everyone that's out there. That you have an idea, you want to try, yeah. And it's so relatable, like the fact that we only have 24 hours, we have to sacrifice some things if we really want to build something. And building something from zero, it's really very difficult. It requires a lot of time and energy as well, with all the modules that we're also taking. Yeah. Yeah, so Zihao, actually you have taken part in like 2 experiences with regards to entrepreneurship. So yeah, how do you feel about the 2 projects?
And so I took 2 entrepreneurship mods in RC4. The first one I took was Ideas to Pitches, which was held during the school semester. The second one I took was Pitches to Prototypes, which took place during the summer break. So for Pitches to Prototypes, we spent 6 weeks on the module, 2 of which we went to Shenzhen to work on our prototypes and to take part in some company visits and really got to speak to quite a lot of companies there. As for Ideas to Pitches, this happened during the school semester, so we had the entire semester to really refine our ideas with our mentors. And actually, Danish is a mentor himself for Ideas to Pitches.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Danish, could you share more about like what motivates you to come back to serve as a mentor, especially because the first time we met was during the pitching clinic?
Yes, yeah, I remember that actually.
Yeah.
I think what motivates me is because I always like being able to hear new ideas. But of course also because Prof Nong asked, I can't really say no to most of the time. But it's really something because like why I also did or am teaching as well is because I like it when I see students see a click. That little click is what motivates me a lot, and being able to mentor and see how like even the RC4 students are also building on entrepreneurship, and then maybe they started with an idea they thought would be good, and then they completely just 180 into something else entirely, but it becomes so much more successful, or they feel so much more motivated. It's what kind of gives me a bit of life. I like that energy. So that's kind of the reason why I keep coming back. And of course, just to be able to give back to the place that's really given me so much. So, I mean, stay here for 3 years. So, yeah. So I guess with that in mind, what kind of feedback did you actually appreciate, and what actually would have loved to hear more of? Like, for example, because I think, consult your pitch, right? If not, like maybe the other mentors, like, so even I could also understand what I could do better. Yeah.
I think for like my personal experience, like I really liked having like a mentor whom we can like consistently ask for help, because I feel like, especially for us, when we weren't really we didn't really have a good understanding of like what gap we wanted to address. So it felt like it was all over the place. So I really appreciated how the mentors were like really very like accessible, and they always were open to having consultations. Yeah, so like there was once when we consulted our mentor over like 2 times in a week, and it was through Zoom, so it was great because we got to clarify a lot of things with him. Yeah, so I think one thing that I feel would be a lot more helpful would be to have, I guess, more to give us a better direction, and to give us a better direction on where we want to go, because I feel like for a lot of our groups, like we are all over the place, right? We have like a vague idea of what we want to work on, but when you really start to drill in, like then that's when we start to lose focus. So maybe it could be like a lot more focused to give us like a general sense of direction, so that we can see how we can go about executing it and refining our ideas. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, Danish, what do you think are your thoughts? Like, what are some of your thoughts on like students approaching entrepreneurship right now?
In like RC4?
Yeah, in RC4, based on your experiences.
So far, I think I've done 2 or 3 runs of the program, and I think the ideas are actually very diverse. Like, you have people who are trying to solve big world problems. So some people link up to UN pillars, whether it's sustainability, something. It's very heartwarming. If not, you also have people who are very technologically based. Like, I've seen some people who already come into the pitch setting with an MVP already, because they've just been like stuck with the idea, and they just created it, and then now they're just trying to figure out when they can sell it, which is also pretty interesting. So far, I think the level of maturity I've seen in a lot of the pitches from RC4 has been quite high. It's really that everyone already sort of has the idea, they sort of understand how to target, and they sort of understand how they would either build the solution or sell the solution. The only problem is, I guess, of course, which I don't expect, they don't have the tools or how to figure out to connect those dots together. So that's what I've noticed so far, and then I think like what you said, the direction. So there are times where in some of the pitches, it's really out of my domain, so I don't really know how to assist. So the most I can do is maybe like, you might want to talk to this group of people, you might want to do a bit of research here, or I would just advise on this how you can sell something, market something, and that's basically what I can do. But really, what I really like the most is that a lot of the ideas end up becoming ideas that even I would actually want to do at some point of time, whether I would want to use it as a consumer, or if it does really solve that world problem, it's really cool. Right? And that's what I think RC4 stands for, right? The whole systems thinking. You can see it in the pictures. I'm not even exaggerating, it's there. It sort of ingrains itself, and I think it's also very nice to see. Yeah, so I don't know. If you were to look at the entire process, were there times where maybe you felt that you could have gotten additional help, like maybe because you really felt like your idea was something you wanted to bring further, not just to complete the module, but also because you actually wanted to launch it? Right? Because I hear you guys have like an RC4 Entrepreneurship Club now, and how that works out. Like, you want to give me the lowdown on that?
I think for us here at the RC4 Entrepreneurship Club, so what we have right now is an annual pitching competition that allows students to pitch their ideas in front of a panel, and after which the top 3 teams would be able to receive funding for their ideas. Yeah, so at RC4 Entrepreneurship Club, we aim to organize and assist in the whole like build up to the event as well, in the form of like organizing pitching clinic for students to really like refine their pitches, so that they will be able to pitch in a manner that conveys accurately what they really want to sell. Yeah, and I think on top of that, just the RC4 pitching competition in general, it's not only the funding that they'll be able to receive if they are the top 3 teams, but it's also the way that they would be able to be incubated into Block 71 as well. So it's a much longer term project in a sense that it doesn't just stop after the pitching competition, right? They don't just get the funding and then they are left to their own devices, right? So they would actually receive a lot more support from the wider NUS community, and that I think is very beneficial because it gives them a lot of traction to really bring their idea forward and take their idea to the next step. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds really cool. Why was that not around when I was here? Okay. No problem.
And like on top of all these, so these are to people who really have an idea, they want to start something, you know. But for those that, you know, they don't really have an idea yet, we also have avenues to get them interested. So like, in fact, we're having startup carnivals where we invite different startups to come and share a little bit more on their experiences. We have pitching clinics, we invite founders to come and make talks, how to create your pitch decks. So for me, like I don't really have an idea yet, but through attending all these talks and fireside chats, my interest in entrepreneurship it has skyrocketed. Yeah, and you know, in future, who knows, I'll be a founder, and we'll see. Yeah, but it's very exciting. I think RC4 Entrepreneurship Club, we're working hard to bring students all these events and activities.
Yeah. I think we also aim to like really close the gap between students who are interested in exploring this entrepreneurship space to the founders themselves, so that we'll be able to have more touch points and more avenues for these students to really go out there and ask questions, learn more, and so that they would also learn, they also benefit a lot as well.
I've heard this popular phrase like lean startup. It kind of like, you know, you fail fast and then you keep trying, you go and test the market. So it's all over, like it's such a popular thing. Do you agree with this, or do you think that there's a potential danger with failing too fast?
So I used to vehemently disagree with it, but I come to a point where I've not only acknowledged it, but I've also accepted it in a lot of places because, again, this economy, you don't have the amount of time and resources. So quickly figure out that something isn't viable and just moving on to the next thing with no emotions tied or baggage tied to the previous thing is very important because I think it's very natural. You see lots of startups pivot consistently, they change the branding really fast, they change the idea really fast, and I think it's important because if you know you're already stuck in a dead zone, right, or a market that's not going to pan out, right? Because not everyone can be like a maverick and create their own market, right? Sometimes you have to find a market gap instead, or you look everywhere and there's no gap in the first place, right? Understanding that is important because you can then move on to something else. So a lot of the time people don't move on is because I think it's more like a sunken cost fallacy. They feel like, oh, I spent so much time building the mock-ups, even building the MVP, but now no one wants to use it. So like, what am I going to do with this? And then there's another fallacy where they kind of like try to use the MVP and adapt it along, which is fine if you can still find something adjacent to it. But if you really just want to pivot to something else completely, there is no harm in just leaving that behind, right? You never know. Someday it may come back to fruition where you finally realize that it's viable again, you can pick it back up, and then you won't start from zero anymore. Or somewhere along your journey, it becomes something you can actually import and merge. That also works. But the whole point of being lean at this point is because some startups, they would try to get marketing done, user acquisition really fast, but sometimes that's not what you need. Sometimes what you need is more of like a beachhead that gives you something concrete at the start, right? Whether it's a guaranteed user base, whether it's a guaranteed investment, then that gives you some direction. So lean startup isn't to be confused with, I am just trying everything, throwing it into the wall, trying to make sure it sticks. It should not be confused with those two things. They're two separate concepts. Some people think the two are the same. It's like, oh, I'm a startup, let's try 10 different ideas and see what works. It doesn't happen that way. If you try to pitch to an investor, you've got 10 ideas running, they're going to be, you're not focused, I'm not going to even try to listen to your pitch, that's what's going to happen, right? And more importantly, it also means don't just randomly hire a lot of people. So a lot of people get very confused by the idea or the glamorization of, oh, this startup got like a seed funding and then now they're hiring like 20 developers to quickly get something out. They have the money, that's why they can get the 20 developers, right? But if you're just you and maybe one other friend, right? You don't got that kind of cash. Just figure out what you can do with your means and then push it out, right? Whether it's a really quick landing page, whether it's just a very quick market study, or again, no harm, right? Even just with the network that is maybe not yours. Like sometimes maybe your parents could help you out, some of your friends might have connections, right? And they could be your first customers. That also helps a lot, right? So that's also something to understand. Because the lean startup also comes with the fail fast, right? Like do fast, fail fast, but also comes with hire fast, fire fast also. And what a lot of people forget to see, especially when you are a sole founder, because I'm a sole founder, I didn't have a co-founder to kind of lean on, is that it gets very emotional after a while. Firing the first person for me was a very life-defining moment because I was like, I'm sorry, I really don't know how to put you here. The skills you have are good, but just not what we need right now. And then having to tell that person they don't have a job anymore was something that was also quite soul-crushing. And it's something that I think every founder has to go through once to realize, because it also gives you the magnitude of like when you start getting people to join your dream and enjoy your dream, then you're also kind of liable for them, right? But I'm also very thankful with my team because we go through lots of ups and downs, and there are also parts where I can't solve everything, and I just have to be like, I'm really sorry. Like this is how it is. It is mentally draining, it's emotionally draining, but communication is still key regardless, I suppose. Yeah.
Actually, as a leader, right, when you're managing a team, how do you like seek the balance between allowing the members in your team to have the freedom to explore compared to, while ensuring that they're still aligned to the overall goal that like you've already set for them?
So you have KPIs and metrics, right? That's what sets the baseline. So at least you know that's something they can work towards. It's qualitative, it's tangible. That's the most important. I think what usually happens is people don't set these things at the start. So people know people are working, but they don't know where they're working towards or what they're going to, right? Giving those KPIs and metrics helps set the technical part of things, right? And then we can start exploring okay, what else do you want to do, right? So if they have ideas they want to challenge or try, then it's just making sure you can kind of give them room. But the key thing I realized over the years is that ownership was the most important. Being able to allow them to feel and have the ownership. It's like, okay, you want to try this idea out, this is the budget you're going to request, okay, what is your KPI, what are your metrics that you want to do? That's what I usually ask, right? And then we come to an agreement and then we go, okay, let's try this out. So then they feel some sort of ownership on that project. Now they know they've got a goal, they've gotten the approval, and now we know how to quantify whether or not there's success or failure, right? And I think the most important part is the post-care that a lot of people kind of forget. When it's a success, everyone's like, yay, okay, we can do this as a business, this is not a new business idea, business unit, let's plan it out. The failure is the one that needs recovery. So if the project doesn't work out, the budget is wasted, nothing happens, the KPIs are met, the post-recovery is to kind of make sure that they don't feel so bad about it, and also kind of remind them that, hey, at least we now figured out what doesn't work, right? So now let's just make sure that if we're going to try this again, what can we change? How do we avoid all these problems and move on from there? If you don't do that post-care and you kind of let them feel like, oh, they've been a failure, then you can start to see the crack show, and that's not good for a team. It becomes pretty toxic as well. Because once you have a bunch of people who are demoralized, their energy catches on pretty quickly as well. Yeah.
So what do you think is like one thing or failure that you wish more young entrepreneurs could go through? Something that like it's not taught in school, you can't read it in a book. Yeah.
Talking to people. I realize it's very nice to sit through pitch presentations in schools where it's so rosy and everyone is so nice, especially like I'm part of like a couple of mentor programs for secondary school where they try to do entrepreneurship as well, and the mentors are being sensitive to the situation, and they know that these kids are still very young. There's no point trying to crush their soul right now, so they hold back what could be more vicious comments, but vicious but true. The problem is it's true, right? But they hold back these comments, they try to give more light of hope. They be like, okay, you didn't sound very great here, how about you just try to make it sound better, or change the slide to make it look nicer and stuff like that. But once you go up to the point where I guess in like the university level, I guess the one biggest skill I realized, and this is not just from entrepreneurs, this is also just from people entering the workforce, because like when I've sat through some interviews personally, communication is, I realize it's easy to talk to friends and classmates, but when you're trying to talk to a stranger to sell yourself, gone. Like, they're like, so what is good about you? And they go, and then they go with very ChatGPT answers at this point in time, I'll put it, right? Or the fact that when they talk to people to sell their idea, right, then they're like, oh, I'm not interested. Like, before they even get the first 3 sentences out, they're like, no, I'm not interested, don't talk to me. That rejection is like it's just a sledgehammer, but it's something that has to be experienced, because how you recover from that will define whether or not you should even do entrepreneurship, right? And then learning how to communicate with people, because sometimes some people are not being aggressive or passive aggressive in some cases, right? Because they just don't want to deal with you. It's because it's also part of them testing you, because they themselves have understood the value of their own time and also understood the value of their own decisions. So they want to make sure that if you can get over that hurdle and you can do it elegantly, right? Whether it's through making sure you talk to them at the right opportunity, whether you say the right words, or whether you sell in a certain way, right? Like if you want to sell milk to a family versus milk to a business, it's going to be 2 separate ways, right? You don't use the same magic throughout. It doesn't work that way. That is a skill I don't think you can learn in school, because school at most, I think, can only give you maybe 3 or 4 default examples, right? In the real world, there's so many permutations to it, right? Really, someone could just be having a bad day, and that's why they just didn't want to listen to you, right? And learning how to work with that is also something you need to understand, right? That cannot be taught. I don't think that can be taught at this point of time.
You have to experience it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Actually, so for especially a lot of like us university students, right, when a large part of our lives revolve around school, revolve around classes. So would you suggest any practical steps that they can take to improve this like communication skill, such that they are able to, you know, have a taste of it?
In my personal case, it was really having really good friends and best friends. So like some of my best friends even till today are like from RC also. And I say this because some friends, when I like try to tell them an idea or I try to pitch to them, say, hey, do you mind if I just pitch you something, just let me know your feedback, right? Because they're your friend, they're like, oh, it's okay, it's very nice. And you're like, okay, that's okay, but any feedback, right? And they're like, oh, maybe it's a bit long, just that's all. They are trying to be nice because they don't want to hurt your feelings because you're friends. But my best friends, when I pitch them something, they go, oh, that was shit. Like, what do you mean? I got bored in the first 5 seconds. What do you want me to do? I don't understand this, I don't understand. And that feedback, while kind of like it's jarring, is what actually helped me improve a lot of the things I needed to improve on. Whether it was how I would brand something, what I message something, how I would communicate something to someone. And that was the feedback that I really needed to hear. Right? So they're like, hey, I'm sorry for beating you up, man, but like really this is, I don't know, like, if I don't tell it to you, I feel like this is not gonna work out. And it was because of that honest feedback. That's how I got to do it, I got to know. If not, even during my time, I've done certain things, like Reddit, for example. Right? Subjecting yourself to the internet also helps in certain ways. I would throw startup ideas through my Reddit account or throw away Reddit accounts on like subreddits, whereby like, oh, I have this idea for a startup, like what do you think, right? And yes, there will be a few people who will be like, oh, this sounds great, I would maybe want to invest in blah, 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 but for every 1 person that comments that, there's about 20 other Redditors that will comment and go like, this is a trash idea, like this has been done before, blah, 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 blah. And you know what the best part about it? Free research, free consultation. The people who are angriest at you are giving you the best advice, right? And it's free because like I send this message before I sleep, right? I wake up, I go for classes, and then I come back, and then when I'm eating in the dining hall, and I see all the comments, I'm like, well, crap. But now I have so much valuable information that I didn't have to go and find myself. Those are all things you could do on your own time, and that's basically what I've realized as I go along. If not, some of the professors I've talked to, Prof. Nav again, are the people who I'll throw these ideas to, and then their feedback is also very valuable because advice from people from different life stages and different experiences give a lot of insights to different things. Sometimes an idea I had, I thought for one, maybe target audience, actually would have worked so much better for a different target audience, and I only realized that because I talked to someone of that target audience range. If I didn't throw the idea to them, I wouldn't know. Right, and it really does change the perspective. So really, that's something I could do just in school. No, I didn't really have to go anywhere else.
Yeah. Okay, I think we have one last question.
Sure.
Right? For those aspiring entrepreneurs out there, what do you think is like the most underrated skill that one should have to embark on this, long journey?
Underrated skill. Math. When I mean math, I mean just financial math. I think one very big litmus test is, do you know your own personal finances? Like, do you know your in and out? Because if you don't know how much you're spending, like on just going out with friends, on your bus fare and stuff like that, and how much you're getting in terms of like whether you're still getting allowance from your parents, or whether you're on a scholarship, or whether you're doing a part-time somewhere, right? If you cannot balance those figures, how in the world are you going to balance the finances of a startup? Because literally one of the biggest questions any investor is going to ask you, even if you have no MVP, you're really just starting out, like pre-ideation stage, right? Is, okay, how much money do you want? Why do you want that money? And how much money are you going to make me? If you can't answer any of these questions, they're not even going to entertain you, right? And that's because they need to understand what your burn rate is, right? So knowing that if you're going to do a tech startup, if you're going to build like an app, just basically knowing how much it's going to cost you for hosting, even just maybe figure out how much you cost as a person. Like if I'm going to say that, oh, I want myself to be paid 100 an hour, right? Then this is how much I'm going to quantify my hours, right? Understanding that math is very important, because then you understand whether or not the startup you're even doing is worth you, never mind finding an investor, whether worth your time. Because if you realize that running the startup is going to give you not revenue, because revenue is before cost, right? But income or a net profit afterwards, right? That is going to be lower than you just doing a day job. Do you still want to do this? It's a very big test, because you don't want to have started everything and then you're already halfway through and you realize, I'm losing a lot of money, I don't know why, and I don't know how to replenish it, and then that becomes a very big problem. Yeah. So I think really it's a very underrated skill, because everyone's very like glossy about things. So like, oh, it's a good idea, I'm going to find the money to do it, I'll find a grant or something, sure. But before you even get there, right, before you can even get the grant, how do you even deal with your basic finances is the most important part. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Danish, for joining us in our podcast. And yeah, I think it was a great conversation that we had. A lot of nice, amazing insights that we have for everyone watching. Yeah.
So if you wish to speak to Danish and ask him for feedback and advice, you can always take part in UTC 2734 Ideas to Pitches, where you can really ask him questions, get to know more, and see how you can refine your idea as well. Yeah, so thank you so much, Danish.
No problem. I'll try my best to help you out.
Okay, now we've come to the end of the very first episode of OrcaTank. So, Rindy, what's going on in the next episode?
Oh yeah, so we're inviting someone that owns multiple startups and he's even an angel investor, but he hates entrepreneurship.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. I'll definitely stay tuned for that.
Yeah, stay tuned for next episode.